When it comes to your personal relationships, defending yourself feels natural. When you're in conflict with someone and someone questions you, you want to clarify it. Or if someone criticizes you, you may justify it. If someone misunderstands you, you want to explain your position. And this feels responsible and it feels necessary for sure. But there's a difference between responding and reacting. And in this video today, I want to talk about how we can come from a lesser egoic point in our position in an argument and really come from more of a higher consciousness place and a place of being responding to the person rather than being reactive to them or about the situation. Because it's really that emotional reactivity. It's that trying to defend yourself, trying to make the other person wrong is what keeps this cycle going and what keeps the argument fueled and usually worsens by doing so. So the first thing that you want to do when it comes to having a disagreement with someone, or maybe it's an argument or dispute and things are maybe not going so well, is you want to bring yourself into the body. And I've talked about this on my channel many times, and it's really about bringing yourself into your hands, your feet, your legs, your entire body, and just placing your attention there. Because if you're stuck up here, you're going to be more reactive. You're going to be kind of getting entangled with them, and you want to bring yourself here in the body. And when we step out of thought and out of emotion, we come into intuition. And by coming into the body, we automatically put ourselves in a position to respond rather than to react. And the more you react and the more you stay up here, the more the person's going to be triggered, or you're going to trigger yourself, and there's going to be this, like, you're really fueling the argument. So the first thing you have to do is you have to become very conscious, and this is going to take effort. Every time you encounter this, you'll get better over time. But in the beginning, you have to try really hard. You have to be very conscious in that, okay, I'm feeling a certain way. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling irritated. I want to say something, but I don't know if I should say that. So what we want to do is don't respond right away, and definitely don't react, but just put your awareness in the hands and the feet and just within the body. This brings you immediately into the present moment, and where you're going to be in a better position to respond rather than react. Now, what you're going to notice is you're going to feel emotions. You're going to feel like every ounce of your being is going to want to defend itself. You're going to want to prove yourself right and them wrong, because that's what the ego is all about. The ego is about making the other person wrong so I can boost up my own sense of self, how I'm right about this and how they're wrong about this. And when we come to the ego for these things, it never really goes well, because the ego is an ultimate truth, and the ego is kind of always wanting disagreements and fights and drama, and it wants to stir things up. And the more people are identified with their own personal ego, the more they're disconnected from love, the more they're disconnected from peace and from truth. And what happens when people are disconnected from truth, love, and peace? They get into this lower states of consciousness, which is this we get into anger and pain and frustration and depression and irritation in these lower consciousness things. And we need to not stay there, especially in the midst of something difficult. We need to bring in these higher consciousness values and these intuitions and these states, because we all have access to them. And the way we get access to them is through presence, is through coming to the present moment. So you need to be very conscious of, okay, you're probably going to start feeling some emotions. And the best way to step out of anger and frustration is to come again within the body. This is taking your awareness and attention out of the mind and in the body, where then you're not really operating from those lower consciousness values and more so in these higher consciousness aspects of yourself. And that's where you need to get to. Now, it's not about suppressing the emotions. It's not about like, okay, I'm doing this wrong because I feel a certain way. You're going to feel probably not great. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be angry. But we don't react from those emotions. We recognize it. We become aware of it. But we don't fuel it by reacting. Because as soon as you start reacting out of these more negative lower consciousness emotions, then you're going to fuel the argument. And they're going to be triggered by it too. And then it's like this mess. So it's okay to feel frustrated and angry and mad and irritated, but just don't allow those things to control the way the argument or the way this confrontation is going. Be aware of it. And awareness is key, because if you're aware of it, you're less likely to react from it. So that's the next thing you need to do, is become very conscious of how you're feeling and not react from how you're feeling. What you'll then find is that placing your awareness within the body, okay, I'm here, I'm rooted within, I feel angry, I feel frustrated, I want really badly to say something. But what you want to do is choose just to be in this mode of being responsive rather than reactive. You'll find that the other person may almost intuitively understand what you're doing in some way, and they may almost want to get more of a reaction out of you because you're not reacting. And when you're not reacting, their own ego wants you to react. So they may come at you with something else or something worse or something more harsh to see if they can trigger that ego, because that's what the ego wants. It wants drama and frustration and anger. And what you need to do is you need to, again, see beyond that and understand that's what's going on. The ego is in play. The ego is now here. And I don't have to be the ego right now. And it's, again, going to take a lot of consciousness, but you're going to be much more in a better position of actually accomplishing this by putting yourself within the body, because by staying rooted there, you're less likely going to be coming up in your head and reacting from them. So you'll notice that the other person may almost get a little bit more triggered by you not reacting. And that's okay. It will pass a lot faster and a lot quicker if you stay within, stay out of the ego, stay out of these lower consciousness emotions, and be present to the experience. And then what will happen is that you'll have this intuitive, natural response that will kind of just come about. And it's not even that you're trying to think of something to say, but rather you just know what to say. And it's through your words then that ultimately, when it's connected to presence and beyond the ego, and not connected with the ego, it will help the conversation move and sift through this negativity a lot faster. It'll kind of cut through the nonsense into really the root of what's going on. And you need to be that person in your life. You need to be the person that when conflict arises, when emotions are high, when things are all over the place, you need to be the one rooted in being out of the ego, because we need more of those people. And I promise you that if you do these things that I'm talking about, your relationships with people are going to be a lot better, especially when you come into these difficult situations, because they're going to happen, and people are difficult, and people are going to test you, and you're going to find them at your work. You're going to find them in your personal life. Anywhere and everywhere you go, there's people. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are still operating from the ego. So you're dealing with a lot of egos out in the world, and you need to be the one to understand the ego and really transcend it the best that you can right now. And on my channel, that's what I'm trying to help other people do. transcend the ego, and you do this by, again, one of the ways is simply using our body. It takes you out of the mind. The ego is your personal sense of self, your likes, your dislikes, your body, your mind, your personality. It's all of those things. All of those things make up the ego. And when we come into the body, though, and we feel that essence and that presence that permeates the body, that is beyond the ego. It's not something you can grasp onto or hold onto or really explain. There's just this essence that's there. That same essence is out there too, in the room you're sitting in, out in everywhere. It's intertwined with the fabric of reality. There's an essence that we can call being, or the transcendent dimension, and you can just become conscious of it. And even as I'm talking, I can sense it and feel it. And that's what we need to come to. And that's another anchor in which we can come into when difficult situations arise. And the more that you practice this, even when it's not a difficult situation, even just in regular conversation, you'll find that you'll have more of an intuitive, natural response. And using the body is something that can anchor you to the present moment and into and out of ego and really into these higher consciousness channels and intuitions. And that's where we want to go. So the next time you find yourself in a difficult, stressful, argumentative conflict, just remember what I talked about in this video and really try it. And I promise you it will help. And you're not going to be perfect at it, but what you'll find is that when you do this, situations tend to resolve themselves a lot quicker. You never regret saying something, because a lot of the time that happens too, where, man, I shouldn't have said that, or I was really angry and frustrated and I said things I shouldn't have said, or, you end up just carrying out this argument way longer than it needs to be. So be the one in your life to adopt this new way of being and showing up in your relationships, and I promise you that you will have better relationships with people, and even when things go south, you'll be able to sift through it and navigate it a lot better than if you were up in your head, up in your ego, trying to defend yourself, trying to make the other person wrong, and you'll be in a much better position. So really take on board this idea that you don't need to defend yourself. Defending yourself is kind of, it's still holding on to the ego. And this whole problem with relationships and with people is about the ego. So we need to practice transcending it so we can have better relationships with people. Because when we defend ourselves, we are boosting up that identification that this is who I am. And that's the other person, and that's who they are. And that's the whole problem and the whole conflict at the root of it. And it's a very deep thing to grasp. And you have to be very conscious and very much on a path of awakening to muster up the strength and the alertness and the consciousness to be able to come into these truths in the middle of an argument, because that's hard. It's hard to do, but it's the truth, and it's ultimately what will set you free in these situations, is to understand that you are not the ego, and by defending it, you are giving into illusion, which ultimately is going to lead to suffering, because you're going to want to defend me. Like, they're the problem. I'm right. I need to make them wrong. We need to argue. We need to get this going or something, because that's what the ego wants. So we need to let that go. And by coming into the body, it will automatically take you out of ego and into presence. And that's where we need to go. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.